Living off the dump. Women, children, families digging through your garbage to make a living. Weekend Business Report starts right now. Hello and welcome to the show. I'm Kenil Gale. Thanks for spending some of your weekend with us. Raging fires at the retirement dump in St. James a few weeks ago destroyed lives and livelihoods. We'll have a special report in a bit, but before that, here are some of the top stories from the BATV News Desk. The Planning Institute of Jamaica, PIOJ, is reporting the strongest quarterly growth in Jamaica's economy since 2016. Jamila Maitland tells us more.
Preliminary figures reveal a 1.8% growth in the country's GDP for April to June compared to last year. PIOJ's Director General Dr. Wayne Henry says this reflects the highest growth in the past 2 years.
We are reporting that real gross domestic product, GDP, for the Jamaican economy grew by an estimated 1.8% in the April to June 2018 quarter, compared with the corresponding quarter of 2017. This represents the strongest quarterly growth in approximately 2 years, that is, since the July to September quarter of 2016.
The Director General says the growth reflects improvements in the goods-producing industry, such as mining and quarrying and agriculture, as well as construction.
The outturn for the April to June 2018 quarter largely reflected, 1, improved weather conditions, which facilitated increased output in industries such as agriculture, forestry and fishing, and electricity and water supply. 2, the positive impact of resumption of operations at Jamaica's largest alumina refinery, which strengthened the pace of growth. And 3, higher levels of construction activities associated with road rehabilitation and construction, increased residential construction activities, and the construction and renovation of commercial buildings.
Dr. Henry says the figures could have been higher, but there were delays in the manufacturing industry. Additionally, tourist length of stay affected the hotels and restaurants industry.
Further growth in the economy was stymied by plant downtime, which negatively impacted output in the manufacture industry, as well as a decline in the average length of stay by foreign nationals, which adversely impacted real value added in the hotels and restaurants industry.
The PIOJ is now projecting growth of up to 2.5% for July to September.
Meanwhile, PIOJ Director General Dr. Wayne Henry is explaining why the construction industry has barely grown despite an apparent boom in road and building construction across the island. Dr. Henry explains that whilst cement is produced locally, 90% of materials used in the construction industry is imported. More in this report.
According to the PIOJ, the construction industry grew by 1.2% in the April to June quarter. But some have questioned those figures, saying they don't reflect the magnitude of construction work being done island-wide. PIOJ's Director General Dr. Wayne Henry explains why.
In instances where these inputs are locally produced, the impact on overall growth is stronger. However, in instances where these raw material inputs are largely imported, the majority of the growth is registered in the economies of external trading partners.
Dr. Henry says although construction is booming, the figures will not be reflected in the Jamaican economy. Rather, he says the growth will show in the import numbers, as Jamaica imports almost all the products and materials used in the industry.
For Jamaica, data has indicated that the import content for some construction projects are in excess of 90% of total project cost. This therefore partly explains why significant investments in construction activities are not translated into significant value added in this industry.
Dr. Henry says purchases of construction materials rose to 8% during the period. However, he also says there's no relationship between the sales of materials and the industry itself.
An examination of preliminary sales performance of key inputs for the construction industry, including construction material, plumbing and heating equipment, paint and glass, and other hardware supplies, indicated that there was a real increase of 8.2% during the review period. It is important to note, however, that while this may be an important indicator of performance by the industry, a one-to-one relationship does not exist between the sales of construction inputs and growth in the industry.
The Director General explained that the country will only see more from the industry when Jamaica starts making some of these goods locally. Until then, he says Jamaica will only reap the benefits when the construction has been completed.
Yes, you're seeing a lot of activities, and yes, it will benefit the country, because the point is that once you've completed, then you will benefit from the assets, whether roads, buildings, expanded hotel rooms, etc. That may result. So it will reduce in terms of lower transaction costs. You will have greater asset value, greater capacity utilization from the construction. But yes, you would have seen, if we were able to produce more of those inputs locally, then of course you'd have seen more contribution to growth overall.
Prime Minister Andrew Holness says Finance Minister Dr. Nigel Clarke will be hosting town hall meetings with the public in order to put to rest speculations surrounding the depreciation of the Jamaican dollar. Here's more.
Explanations are coming. That's the response from Prime Minister Andrew Holness to the issue of the depreciating Jamaican dollar and whether or not the Bank of Jamaica is manipulating the exchange rate to meet the IMF's inflation targets.
On the specific matter, I have asked the Minister of Finance to be the sole voice to explain the policy to all the stakeholders and to the public. And he has been doing so. He's writing op-eds and he's meeting directly. And he will, in short order, make a statement. He has planned a series of public events to explain the policy. So my response to you is that look out for those explanations coming.
The Prime Minister says he understands why there might be jitters among Jamaicans as the dollar slides. However, he notes that unlike what happened in the past, Jamaica is now entering into a new economic era.
The country has long valued its progress, valued itself in US dollars. And when there is a devaluation, the response is always one of fear, sometimes to panic. And it is, quite understandable, But I think it behooves me to say to the nation that we are in a new era. We are in a new economic dispensation. And the transition to that economic dispensation will have these kinds of what I would describe growing pains.
He says despite the depreciating dollar, the economy remains strong.
Moving on now, wildfires blazed through the island's landfills over the past 2 months. Many people were crying, not because of the smoke in their eyes, but because the fires had not only destroyed their houses, but also their livelihood. Among those people were children who also make a living off the dumps. Sashana Small has more in this special WBR report.
Like many children across Jamaica, Alex would rather be in school. But right now he says he has two choices: indulge in crime or rummage through the dump to find items to sell and make some money. He's not proud of it, but he chose to live off the dump.
Feel one way, but I have to do it. I have to do it more than go thief. Better than thief.
He's been living off the dump for several years now, and that's how he gets by, selling whatever he finds that he thinks could earn him some money.
And like, sell like feed and then think that D&G buckle. Get the feed them out of the hotel truck them. Like the truck them I come from holiday in. I'm gonna sell it to the man who have a hog farm, have a pig farm. Like Irish tomato and stuff, the cabbage. Give me around 3,000 more when You know, to stay so. And he have him give me around 5,000.
Alex isn't the only child who comes to the retirement dump regularly to search for items to sell. The dump is also a popular hangout spot for him and his friends, but it isn't always safe.
And then some big boat did come here, I would just get some rope and tie them on the garbage truck. And make them run on the road. And steal it, hook out one away. And cut him.
While Alex and the other children who hustle on the dump may not be aware of the many dangers lurking within the garbage pile, Wendy is. She has been a hustler on the dump for the past 10 years. But unlike some families who bring their children with them to help with the scavenging, Wendy says this is one place she doesn't want her children anywhere near.
No, they never. Why? Because I pity them and they want them out to germs more than me. You understand? I go down and make sure me sanitize myself. You understand what I say? So you know, I don't for them think this. No.
But not all parents feel this way.
Don't know, say, only probably has fears or other children. So I just, yes, so.
But Wendy is willing to expose herself to all the toxins in a bid to keep her children safe, fed and off the dump.
Everybody wants something. And if they follow me, like my parents, and they follow me come, they don't want to look for something, but you have to keep them outside. You understand? Maybe enough people don't want to keep them outside because they're supposed to keep outside.
When BATV News visited the landfill, we only saw a few children, but we were told by the hustlers there that this is very unusual, as seeing children working on the dump is very common, especially during the summer. This was confirmed by the regional operations manager in charge of the parishes of Westmoreland, Trelawney, Hanover and St. James, Garnet Edmondson. He said the issue of children on the dump is something he has had to deal with regularly.
They are really actual facts, where parents who survive off the dump do bring their kids to help them to pick from the refuse of society. No doubt you might have seen some of that today in your shows. Maybe whilst you're here you may not see because they are often they're camera shy, and as such they will come around when persons of familiar faces are around. Even myself, when I'm here, they shy away from, because it's a practice that I do not condone. There's this one youngster who he attends the Granville school that I speak to from time to time. A very bright chap, you know, and have ambition to become a pilot. You know, very mannerly, smart, very smart. You know, from time to time we have conversation about school, what is happening, you know, and he will let you understand how his life is, you know, how he has the help to provide, you know, and of course, from time to time, your heart reach out to this situation.
Mr. Edmondson says he's been in consultation with different agencies to get children off the dump, but the process to remove them has been very slow.
Because there are kids involved, the agencies, child protective, whatever agency that needs to be inside there to deal with this problem, because here it is that, you know, kids are involved, and from that perspective we have to be very careful how we manage the process.
Many of us don't even want to be driving behind a garbage truck, not to mention living close to a dump. But for many families in Jamaica, this is not only their home, but also their only means of survival.
Thank you so much for that report, Sashana. Company news comes up next. Then later, a legend left us this week, remembering the Queen of Soul. More WBR after this break. Welcome back to Weekend Business Report. Here is this week's company news.
Salada Foods recorded revenues of almost $749 million during the 9-month period ended June 2018. Exports also grew by $40 million or 63%. This was due to increased exports into North America. Sales to Canada also increased by about 100%. Meanwhile, the company says the results for the period aligned correctly with the indicators that were set for upward movement going forward. Lasco Manufacturing Limited saw a net profit jump by 77% during the first quarter of this year, fueled by strong sales and cost control. For the 3 months ended June 2018, net profit amounted to $237 million. That's a significant increase over the $134 million recorded in the comparative period of 2017. In the months leading up to the review quarter, Lasco Manufacturing entered the carbonated and energy drinks market, introducing a reduced sugar variant of its flagship product, Lasco Vanilla Food Drink, and reduced the sugar content of some of its iCool juice drinks.
Let's now take a look at the closing numbers from the major stock markets around the world. When we come back, more of the week's top stories from the BATV News Desk, so stay with us. Welcome back to Weekend Business Report. More news now. The Statistical Institute of Jamaica Statin says results from the 2017-2018 Household Expenditure Survey will be used to determine the new basket of goods and services, which will be used to track the movement of the Consumer Price Index, CPI. Here's more.
Director General of the Statistical Institute of Jamaica Statin, Carol Coy, says by the year 2020, the new basket items which will gauge the Consumer Price Index, CPI, will be ready. The CPI is a very important economic monitoring tool which looks at the average movement of prices for different goods and how it impacts inflation and the overall cost of living. The 2017-2018 Household Expenditure Survey will be used to determine the new items that will help to measure the Consumer Price Index.
We undertook the Household Expenditure Survey throughout all of 2017. So we are actually in the process of processing the data. So at this point, we cannot say what the changes will be because it's a survey that will tell us what the weights, what the particular weights would be. So we have to wait until we have processed that.
She says to produce the new Consumer Price Index, there will have to be a change in the base year, which is currently 2006.
One of the things is for us to do the new CPI, we have to information for a new base. Currently the base is December 2006. But our new base year will be the full calendar year 2019. So what that means is that we will have to collect prices of 2019 for the new items that will be in the basket. At this point, we do not know what the new items will be.
She notes that there probably will not be a large change in the weighting of items for the new CPI.
The Jamaica Stock Exchange, JSE, may become one of the first international stock exchanges to use an online digital currency and token trading platform. The JSE says the plan is to roll out the new platform by the end of 2018. The online interface will see investors, brokers, shareholders, and other members buying and selling assets. Jamila Maitland reports.
Traders on the Jamaica Stock Exchange JSE will soon be able to trade using cryptocurrency. This after the JSE signed a memorandum of understanding with Toronto-based fintech company BlockStation for the creation of a new digital assets trading platform. The JSE says through this agreement, clients will be able to quote, execute, and settle services in a format that aligns with current regulatory and compliance standards. While it is not clear which tokens will be initially listed, the platform is set to go live by the end of the year. It is expected to enable investors to use blockchain tokens such as bitcoins within the JSE's recognized and secure regulatory framework. JSE's managing director Marlene Street Forrest is quoted in an article on Coindesk.com saying the offering of the cryptocurrencies as investment products will eventually segue into investment products that the exchange already offers. She says the JSE plans to create and issue its own cryptocurrency in the future. Meanwhile, BlockStation's co-founder and chief enterprise architect Jay Waterman says the tech company is currently tailoring the system to mirror the JSE's framework. He points out that the mission is to provide a secure method of trading cryptocurrencies.
Opposition leader Dr. Peter Phillips says the government should grant taxi and bus operators a fare increase in light of record-high gas prices. Javon Keys tells us more.
They don't know what they are doing.
That's the criticism coming from opposition leader Dr. Peter Phillips as he addressed members of the Northeast St. Catherine constituency last night. With transport operators clamoring for the government to double fares, Dr. Peter Phillips is joining the call for a fare increase. He is criticizing the government for not providing the increase for transport operators despite the current economic climate and the rise in their operational costs.
What kind of government will see the price of gas gone up steadily, the price of tires gone up, all the operating expenses for vehicles gone up, and hold the price of the taximan them to nothing? Them neither have mercy on the population, nor them have mercy on the taxi operators. And I tell you, if them believe that the people going to travel for the same price because them not authorize the price increase, then it's proof positive that they don't know what they are doing.
He says fuel prices have never been this high, even when the cost of oil per barrel was much higher.
The price of gasoline now in Jamaica is the highest it has been. Higher when oil is now running at $60 or thereabouts per barrel, $60 US per barrel internationally. We were buying oil when we were in government at over $100 US a barrel, and the price of gas was cheaper under the People's National Party.
When we come back, losing a legend, the world grieves for the Queen of Soul. More WBR after this break. Welcome back to Weekend Business Report. The Queen of Soul, Aretha Franklin, died this week. Let's take a look back at her life and legacy.
She was simply known by her first name, Aretha, because of her unmistakable voice. She was born Aretha Louise Franklin in 1942 in Memphis, Tennessee. From her first recordings as a young gospel singer, she went on to become part of the sound of Detroit. Her singing career would span 6 decades. A winner of 18 Grammy Awards, her distinctive gospel-honed vocal style influenced multiple generations. She was #1 on Rolling Stone magazine's list of greatest singers of all time. And she was the first female artist ever inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. But it was the 1967 song Respect which garnered her international attention and fame. 50 years ago, she sang at Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s funeral, and many years later at the dedication of Dr. King's memorial in Washington. She was active in the civil rights movement for decades, something she spoke about in 2014.
Well, it certainly was a struggle and still is. Although we have come a great ways, a long way, there still is a significant way to go.
The recipient of the United States' highest civilian honor, the Presidential Medal of Freedom, her voice delighted presidents. As her health declined, she curtailed her performances, but she always sang, like in this 2014 performance when she sang Adele's hit Rolling in the Deep. The Queen of Soul, for her fans, she always was and always will be. Aretha Franklin was 76 years old.
And that's our show for this week. On behalf of the entire Weekend Business Support team, I'm Keneal. See you next time.